Today we're discussing leadership. Success in any endeavor necessarily demands quality leadership. From the individual to the nation, knowing where to go, why to go, how to get there, and when to get there are basics of leadership. Without the where, why, how, and when, an individual or a nation just drifts along in the hope of miracles, which, though possible, also unfortunately depend on knowing what it is or what is wanted, praying for it, and working towards it. Indeed, without leadership knowledge, miraculous opportunities could remain locked out, however much the opportunity knocks. It is in this light that Ghana must find it important to debate and demand quality leadership that can help determine national direction effectively and help prescribe means for getting there. Ghana's freedom to vote their leadership of choice may be presumed settled after 5 democratic elections. But the functional effectiveness of political governance in between elections remains doubtful. Whilst President Kufuor succeeded in delivering middle-income status from a HIPC state in 8 years, the country is still struggling to come to terms with the incompetence of the Mills administration. Tonight on Minority Caucus, we ask whether, as a country, we are being effectively led, and if not, what difference Nana Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will make. With us this evening to discuss leadership is Mustafa Hamid, spokesperson to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party. Mustafa, welcome to Minority Caucus.
Thank you, my brother.
First of all, I would like you to introduce what leadership is as we go along.
Well, good evening to your viewers. I am happy to be on the forum again for the second time. Leadership, like every concept, will have varied definitions. Indeed, concepts like that could have as many definitions as there are scholars of it. And therefore, it will be difficult for us to say exactly what leadership is. But generally, broadly speaking, leadership is the ability of a person or a group of persons to influence, motivate, and get people to lock into their vision, and then also for those people to be willing to follow them in the realization of that vision. That is my own definition of leadership. But I will quote Bernard Montgomery, who is a British field marshal, a soldier. He defines leadership, and I quote, as he says, leadership is the capacity and the will to rally men and women to a common purpose and the character which inspires confidence, unquote. Okay, so basically this definition, it's almost like my own personal definition that talks about the fact that somebody has to have the ability to motivate people and to inspire people to understand and follow his vision and to be willing to support him in the realization of that vision. So basically that's what leadership is.
And in the context of leadership and in the context of Ghana, what do we need in leading a nation like Ghana? Well,
you know that there's a general agreement, not just in Africa, but across the world, that the problems of Africa are basically the failures of leadership. And the examples of South Korea, of Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and the rest of them has vindicated this position that the failures of Africa are basically the failures of leadership. Because Africa, and particularly Ghana, is endowed with all that there is to be endowed with. I mean, we have gold, timber, bauxite, diamond, you name it. Now we even know that we have huge deposits of iron ore and all of that. And then now the Almighty Allah has blessed us with oil and our shores and so on and so forth. And that when we were emerging from independence, in terms of per capita, we were at par with all of these so-called Asian tigers and so on. And in some of them, we even outstripped them. you know, in terms of how much money we had at the time of independence and so on and so forth. But we basically squandered all those opportunities. And as they say, we are where we are. And that is because of a failure of leadership. We haven't had a sustained leadership. People have said that, well, the first president, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, had vision, that he was a good leader, he did a number of things, but that his tenure was truncated by a military coup and so on and so forth. Those are issues that can be debated. But even that, you know, from 1957 to about 1960, I mean, Ghana had already virtually squandered its reserve, albeit in the African project. I mean, using our money to support liberation movements in Zimbabwe, in Guinea, and all of that. I mean, other people thought that we could have used those monies rather for our own development and so on. And then subsequently, we've seen what has been the bane of Ghana. I mean, poor leadership, except perhaps the more stable part of Ghana's democracy, which is the Fourth Republic. And now we can see that somehow or the other, we were beginning to make strides into the future until 2008 came, when everything sort of seems truncated again.
And in the current instance, what has been on the minds of a lot of Ghanaians is that a lot, you know, regarding governance, regarding where we're going as a nation, does not seem to be going in the direction people want it to go, and people blame this on the leadership of Professor Mills. What do you have to say about that?
You see, people, as I said, have done a lot of studies on what leadership is. I just brought 2 books with me to the studio on leadership. One is called The 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader by John C. Maxwell. And then the man who visited Ghana recently, Dr. Miles Monroe, had this one, The Spirit of Leadership. And there are many, many, many books that we have on leadership. Now, so everybody basically agrees that there are certain qualities that a leader must have. Okay. Now, I am going to select those that I find that resonate across all books on leadership, which I find critical to the Ghanaian project. Okay. And that is 1, character; 2, commitment; 3, competence; 4, courage; 5, passion; 6, responsibility. Now, why I think that these are critical, okay, to the Ghanaian project is that for a leader to be able to say that I am a leader, that fellow must first of all be able to accept responsibility. For me, responsibility is the first matter. Even the fact that you agree to step up to the front of your political party and say, I want to be made the standard bearer of my party. That in itself is a statement that says, I want to assume responsibility for the party that I lead. Okay? And then in wanting to become president of Ghana, you are also basically saying, I want to accept responsibility for Ghana's problems. I want to accept responsibility for Ghana's challenges. I want to accept responsibility for Ghana's failures. And then more importantly, for Ghana's successes.
Mustafa, you were on responsibility before we went on the break. Can we continue from there?
I was just making the point that the election in which we are going, and for that matter, every single election that we have had since '92, has been about selecting or electing somebody who will take responsibility for the Ghanaian project. Now, unfortunately, since 2008, the president of Ghana, His Excellency John Evans Atta Mills, has never stepped up to take one single responsibility for anything. You know, as Eslawusu will put it, he's the president who hears no evil and sees no evil. You know, when you do that, then you are shaking a major chunk of what leadership is. And therefore, there's no center. Nothing holds again, and things begin to fall apart, as we see both inside the party of the NDC and also in the nation at large. I'll give you specific examples. When you ask Professor Mills, His Excellency Professor Mills, why food prices are expensive, he tells you he's not a farmer. When you say, why is there lawlessness? Why are you not curbing lawlessness? He says he's not a policeman. When you ask him, why is the CD falling? He says you should ask Dr. Dufo. When you ask him why there are there's erratic power supply. He says he doesn't control the Akosombo Dam. When you ask him why the payments were made to Woyomi, he says he's not criminally minded. When you ask him what his foreign policy is, he says Ziufiasem. When Shamima Muslim asks him what type of leadership he's offering, he says he doesn't know. When you ask him, what are you doing in the castle? He says, God is the president. Master, tell me one single thing that President Mills has taken responsibility for in this country. The other time there was flooding in Ashaiman. Everybody saw on national television, people's properties had been destroyed.
Yeah.
And then a president goes to the people. Perry, you and I know that when you go to a disaster hit area as president of Ghana, what they expect straight away to hear is that, please take heart. I will get the National Disaster Management Organization to remedy your plight.
Yes.
They will bring you blankets, they will bring you tents, whilst we see the way forward for getting you permanent housing and so on and so on. This is what everybody expects to hear from South Africa to Cape Verde.
And what happens under normal circumstances?
Absolutely. Yeah. President Mills goes there before national television, and then he's telling the people in Ashaiman, Mumbom Paye Ai, Mumbom Paye Ai, Mumbom Paye Ai. Master, I was outraged. Frankly speaking, I was scandalized. That is the duty of their pastor. Their pastor prays with them every Sunday. They didn't vote for you so you can come and admonish them to keep praying. No. They voted for you and pay taxes to you so you can get NADMO to bring them blankets when disaster hits them. You know, I talk about these matters with passion, not necessarily because I am NPP. Indeed, I wish that I wasn't NPP, so that when we are discussing these matters, people know that we are simply being passionate about the Ghanaian project and the fact that we want a leadership that will step up and hold the flag of Ghana and hold the bull by the horn and take responsibility, because the presidency is where the buck stops. Yeah. So for us to have a president who has never accepted or taken responsibility for anything, Perry, is very sad indeed. Nanado, on the other hand, because we're talking about Nanado and President Mills, because that's where the contest is somebody who accepts responsibility. Do you get the point? Yes. He accepts responsibility. The last time we lost the 2008 election, there's been a lot of hulabaloo. Mustafa Hamid caused our defeat. Former President Kufuor caused our defeat. I mean, Perry Okujeto and Co caused our defeat. Everybody was blaming everybody. It took Akufo-Addo to step up to the front and say, please, I accept responsibility for our defeat. But please give me the flag again. I am willing to do better in 2012. That is a leader.
Exactly.
He too could have been passing the buck and pointing at all of us who were working for him and say, but Mustafa, you didn't speak well.
You didn't do your job.
you didn't do your work,
Exactly.
your job well.
Yeah.
I mean, Jacob Echebi Lamte, where were the adverts? We didn't place it. He too could have gone around scapegoating. But he didn't do that. He stepped up and said, I take responsibility for our failures in 2000. So we heap all the responsibility on him. You know, people are willing to forgive people who take responsibility. You know, but if you keep ducking and dodging, then it's difficult for people to trust you with anything. And that is why, in my candid opinion, I think in 2012, having failed to take responsibility for the past 4 years, the Ghanaian people are looking for somebody who will take the responsibility for the Ghanaian project and run with it. Then we can rejuvenate the Ghanaian spirit.
Mustafa, I'll let you tell us what kind of leadership qualities Nanado has.
Yeah.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty of what kind of leadership qualities Nanado has, as a nation and as a developing country south of the Sahara, what kind of leader do we need in general terms?
Well, first of all, we need a leader who is honest. Okay, because honesty, for me, is critical. And with its allied or synonym, that is called integrity. I mean, because that's what honor is. That you ought to have integrity. That when you say something, that you mean it. You know, you don't preach peace on the outside and then you engineer violence and anarchy in the confines
the scenes
of your office.
Yeah.
That is not honest leadership. You don't sanction payments, or for that matter, even attempt to stop corrupt payments, and then it doesn't work. And then when the thing blows up in our faces, you come up and say, well, I didn't know about this matter. I will find out about that matter. You don't go to sign an ECOWAS protocol that says that we can send, ECOWAS should send a force to Cote d'Ivoire to remove a legitimate leader, and then you come back home.
When all other means fail.
Yeah,
that, like
as a last resort, we can do this. And then you come back home and then you say, no, you didn't say that. Then the Kenyan Prime Minister visits you, and then you backtrack again and say, well, I mean what I signed with the ECOWAS. You know, everything is always wishy-washy, back and forth. And I think that that is the major problem that Ghana has now. We don't have a leadership that is resolute, that is honest, that is firm, that has integrity. And I think that it is important that we restore integrity and honor to the presidency of the country. And that is what Akufo-Addo will give us. Now, let me go quickly, even though you haven't asked me about the other matter.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the important leadership quality of courage. Okay? Look, I have before me a news item. Ugandan ministers resign amid graft claims. Many people do not know that the same Woyome scandal that has bedeviled Ghana is the same scandal that has bedeviled the Ugandan economy. Ministers in Uganda paid $62 million to a businessman. His name is Hassan Basajabalaba. They paid him $62 million for no work done.
So similar.
Almost just that the figures are different. This is 51 million, this is 62 million. So far, 6 ministers have been booted out by President Yoweri Museveni, including the finance minister. And look at what the news story says. The report said Bumba, who was then the finance minister, directed the central bank governor to issue guarantees for the payment, whilst Makubuya, who was then attorney general, handled the negotiations with the businessman. Doesn't this sound like
similar scenarios?
So you are looking for a president who has the courage to tell his ministers that, look, you are dismissed. Forget even the case of Uganda. This is also Tanzania. And this is just a few days ago. President Jakaya Kikwete has sacked 6 ministers amid allegations of government corruption. And you know what these ministers are? Not just common ministers, so to speak, excuse my language.
Cabinet level.
Finance, energy, tourism, trade, transport, and health. Announcing the dismissal, President Kikwete said that accountability will be taken seriously, and ministers, subordinates, and even executives working for state-owned companies would also be held responsible over embezzlement. He said, it is not enough for a minister to take responsibility alone, but the new approach is that even those who caused the mishap will also be taken to task as well. So you can see that other countries in Africa who are serious about combating corruption and who have courageous presidents are sending clear signals to the world that the purse is safe with them. Unfortunately, in Ghana, we don't have a courageous president who can sack. You remember the last time, I think that was last year, the 31st December, or it June 4th was celebrated. Former President Rawlings talked about a high-profile official who was given an appointment by a member of the Council of State. Our president also issues an appointment letter for somebody to go to that same office. By the time the president's appointee gets there, the Council of State's members' appointee is already sitting there. In the chair. So the guy returns back to President Mills and says that, well, he found somebody there. And according to President Rawlings, I'm quoting him, he says all the president could say was, he mentioned the man's name, I'll mention his name, oh haumpa. Masa, if you are a president who has courage, who has tenacity, who is steadfast, who knows what you are about, who is focused, who has vision, you will ask that man who was not appointed by you to leave that office in 5 minutes. That's what we are talking about, leadership of courage.
Exactly.
Otherwise, the center doesn't hold, everything goes haywire, your own party will be in tatters as it is now, and then the country at large will be in tatters. Nobody is working. Perry, State Transport Company, as we speak, workers of the State Transport Company of Ghana have not been paid for the past 2 months.
Mustafa, you've raised issues regarding leadership. We'll be discussing responsibility and courage. what other virtues of leadership did you have to share with us?
Again, leaders ought to have passion and commitment for what they do. We all know the history of Nana Akufo-Addo, for example. From the young age of 33, he's been involved in this Ghanaian project, okay? Now he's about 67. So for more than half of his life's existence on earth, he's been dedicated to the Ghanaian project. That's what we mean by passion and commitment. He's committed to the Ghanaian project. He's committed to democracy. He's committed to free speech. He's had a vision ever since that young age that, look, for the Ghanaian project to be successful, we need to open the frontiers of freedom. We need to democratize. And that is why he has been involved in all those struggles with the People's Movement for Freedom and Justice from 19... And the people who were involved in that movement were, if you want, the creme de la creme of Ghanaian political society. Yeah. I mean, you can mention them, the Oketechie Free Fairs and the Okujetos and the Hansens and the Obeda Samuels and all of that. And this was the youngest of them all fighting that project. And we know the history of his fight. I'm not now about to introduce Akufo-Addo to Ghanaian politics.
Especially when he had just left a lucrative career.
Absolutely.
And come back home.
To fight. Because then he was practicing law in France. In 2008, we went to Guinea. And then he was showing me all the areas in Guinea where he used to come and he had clients in Guinea. He was flying all over. You know, he speaks fluent French as well. Yes. So this was a person who was, excuse my language, living a good life, but thought that what is a good life to you as an individual if your people back home are under oppression, are under suppression, and so on, and has come and has been involved in this project. You know, anytime you say this, then our opponents will say, oh, but President Mills was teaching in the classroom, and therefore somebody asked me, Infante, one of our opponents said, university lecturer in Pajinjana. A university lecturer in Pajinjan. Even me, I'm a university lecturer. Yes. But the difference between that's why they call the university an ivory tower. You can mount the ivory tower, live in peace and quiet, hear no evil and see no evil. But when there's evil raging in the society, it takes men of courage, men who are committed, men who are willing to die for the Ghanaian cause, to step up onto the streets, to step up onto the field, and to fight that oppression. That's the difference. So you may be contributing your quota in another field, but this is politics. You know, a good, blacksmith is not a good carpenter. A good psychologist is not a good sociologist. That is why recently when Dr. Baumia delivered his beautiful lecture on economics, I mean, when people were calling Dr. Toniedu to respond, I was like, why? Dr. Toniedu is a brilliant sociologist.
Yes. But
absolutely no doubt about that. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind. But how does that work? A brilliant sociology, by extension, is a brilliant economist? You see, this is how the NDC gets the issues confused. And that is the reason we are in this mess. We are looking for a leader for the Ghanaian political project. So we are asking the question, who has passion and commitment to the Ghanaian political project? Undoubtedly, it's Akufo-Addo. President Mills, you know, was pulled into this matter reluctantly.
Yes.
In 1996, under the wings of former President Jerry Rawlings. And that is how come he's been here. It is not a passion of his. It's not been his commitment. Like some of us, I mean, this has been our passion. I've been sitting in this matter since 1991 when we were in the Dankwa Buzia Club to this day. So you can see that I have commitment, I have zeal, and I have passion for the political project. And we are looking for a leader for a political project, not a leader to chair a journal on tax law. That's a different matter. If we are looking for an editor for a tax law journal, Professor Mills will be absolutely brilliant and there will be no challenger in that field. That is leadership. But leadership for a political project, I mean, the results in 4 years have shown that he doesn't have the passion and the commitment for it. And I'm saying to Ghanaian people that let's vote for the person who has the passion and the commitment for the Ghanaian political project.
And also somebody who will take responsibility.
And somebody who will take responsibility, somebody who has courage
to fire and hire people. From time to time.
You remember Nana Akufo-Addo has already sounded a warning. He says, if you want to make money, not in government, not in my government. I mean, you know the places where you make money. When we go around to the villages and the communities, he tells the people, he says, if it is money that I am looking for, everybody knows how successful a lawyer I was. And therefore, I will take my hood and retire to my chambers. And then when you bring me my case, I can charge you all those exorbitant rates and then make my money. But not in government. We need that sort of leader who can put his feet down and then be able to sanction people so we can have a common interest. But mind you, you remember that Professor Mills said before he came to power that he didn't understand why President Kufuor was asking for evidence. Anytime newspapers published that an officer of the NPP was corrupt.
Yes.
And that when he comes, he will prosecute on newspaper publications. That he won't ask for evidence. Now he comes suddenly, and then he's not just asking for evidence, but even when the evidence is given him, he still turns a blind ear and a blind eye because he sees no evil and hears no evil. I don't think that this sort of, if you want, approach to leadership is good for the Ghanaian project. And that is why former President Rawlings says that this way Ghana is being led into an abyss. But the problem is that we must refuse to follow them into that abyss. We must bring them back from the brink. And inshallah, in December, we shall pull them back from the abyss.
Well, viewers, you can join us by texting to 1760 on all networks. Mustafa, still, you know, bordering on leadership. What kind of leadership does Nana Akufo-Addo bring into the fore?
You see, Paulo Freire, the brilliant Brazilian strategist, has said that there cannot be a revolution without revolutionary theory. In other words, before anything gets done in practice, there ought to be, if you want, a strategy for it. There has to be a theory supporting what you do. Okay? And here again, I refer to the argument President Mills made when Shamima asked him what type of leadership he's offering Ghanaians. Because that's a very important question for me. Because she was asking the theoretical basis for the leadership that you are offering. And that's why I'm saying, I'm quoting Paulo Freire again. There cannot be a revolution without revolutionary theory, because it is the theory that translates into the practice.
Or that guides.
Or that guides the practice. Thank you. Yes. Or that guides the practice. So if we ask you, what leadership are you offering the Ghanaian people? And you say, I don't know, and I can't be bothered. Once I'm removing trees, schools.
I remember the answer was, call it what you want.
Absolutely. So once I'm removing schools and the trees and distributing school uniforms, you can call it whatever you want. But you see, that is the problem. Nana Addo has defined his leadership clearly. He says, I am offering transformational leadership. And everybody knows the parameters for transformational leadership. The parameters for transformational leadership states that you need to relook at all the concepts and practices of your people, or for a people within a certain given period of time, and to be able to offer alternatives that are structurally and fundamentally different. Okay?
From the status quo.
From the status quo.
Yeah.
That will clearly, if you want, divulge from what has been done. And that is what is called because it is only when you do that that it will transform the fundamental structures of both the economy, of our education sector, of the health sector, and all of the sectors.
Especially when pre and post independence, we've tried the same things over and over and over again, and they're not working.
And you know what they tell us? They tell us that if you do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different results, excuse my language, you must be a fool or something to be doing the same thing over and over and then expecting a different result. So if we are to expect a different result, then it means we must be doing something differently, and we must be doing something that will transform. So Nana Addo says, look, my vision is that within a generation, and when we say a generation, the people ridicule us and say, oh, they say that in 4 years they will make Ghana a first world country. That's not true. Nobody has said that. Nanado says that, look, the same blood that runs through you is the same blood that runs through the Singaporeans. So if the Singaporeans and the South Koreans and so on,
Malaysians,
can move
Brazilians
in 50 years from third world to first world status, what makes you think that you as a Ghanaian, you cannot do it? What makes you think so? So he says that, but for us to be able to do so, we must wipe out illiteracy. And he says that the only way to wipe out illiteracy is to afford everybody the opportunity to go to school and engage their talent. That's the only way. Otherwise, tell me somebody else, for those who have been arguing against our proposal for free SHS, they are yet to tell us an alternative that will still allow everybody who has the capacity to go to school to go to school. How are you going to do that? Tinkering here and there, building 1 classroom unit here and 3 classroom unit here. That's not going to allow access. Go around our villages and our communities and see how many people will tell you that they are not being able to go to school because their auntie died or their uncle died or their parents are alive but are so poor and cannot go to school. And what is the duty of a state? That's why Nanado says his leadership is also to create a society of what? Opportunities. A society of opportunity means that the president allows everybody the opportunity to be able to develop their God-given talents and to engage their abilities. So that is a leadership that is focused. So that in the next 30 years or so, we will be able to wipe out illiteracy. And even Sri Lanka, Perry, that has been fighting Tamil Tiger wars for ages, has achieved 97% literacy as we speak because senior high school is free. Uganda has adopted that model. Senior high school is free in Uganda as we speak. We have more resources than Uganda. We are more endowed, but they have even more population than we have. But we have more resources than them. So if Uganda can offer its citizens free senior high school, I don't see why the Ghanaian people are saying that they cannot. You know, so you are looking for a leader who is courageous, who has the capacity to articulate a vision and to stand by that vision and believe in that vision. And that is Nana Akufo-Addo. That's what drives him. That is also because he has the passion and the commitment for the job and he's willing to take responsibility.
Mustafa. Yeah. Still on leadership and what Nana Akufo-Addo offers the Ghanaian people.
The Ghanaian people. We are coming, like Nana Akufo-Addo said, into government with programs, not necessarily promises. With programs, because programs are different from promises. Programs are sets of well thought out plans and actions, okay, with timelines and resources to match and everything else. Now, a leader is somebody who, even when he's implementing those programs and there's a hitch or there are challenges or there are failures, will come back to the people and face the people and say, look, I promise that we will do this, but I guess we have to change gear because of these and so roadblocks that we have made.
Yeah,
that's
that
a leader
encountered in the process.
Absolutely, because that's a leader that is honest. President Mills told us that he will hit the ground running. That's in January 2009. In December 2011, he says we are about to hit the ground running.
Mustafa, we'll take a phone call now. Yeah. Hello.
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 Yeah, hello. Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to Minority Caucus.
Mustafa. Thank you very much. I'm Adam Issa Zangbegu.
Adam, can you lower the volume on your TV set?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, Mustafa, in fact, you have just made my day. I want to greet him in my language. Mustafa Zanoya.
Alafia.
In fact, for me this evening, I have decided that I won't even eat my food. Yeah, you see, leadership, like Mustafa has rightly put it. If you have a leader, if you have a president who sits in the castle, and somebody comes and says that, oh, Mr. President, I've seen money somewhere that we can steal. The money is very huge. Then the president says, oh, you go on, you know me, as for me, I don't care. Then the person goes to steal the money and comes and says that, Mr. President, this is the money. And then before you realize the money is shared all over. Then the person sits there and says he cares. we cannot have this as a leader, because this is a nation wrecker, not a leader. Because a leader, like Mustafa has rightly said, must be able to put his feet down and say that, look, none of my ministers can be corrupt. If you do, you can be shown the exit within the next minute. If you do that, then we can say you can assert your authority on everything. So if like all the things that NDC has to do is to say that, oh, when MPP says that you are not doing well, you are this, then you think that is propaganda. It's not propaganda, because we cannot trust our resources, our oil, our gold, and everything in the hands of somebody who sits there and sleeps on the work.
Thank you very much, Isa. We have Peter on the line. Peter, yes, welcome to Minority Caucus.
Thank you very much, my brother. I just want to contribute to the program.
Go on.
Yes, sir. I'm so much impressed by the gentleman over there. These are some of the people who want them to come and educate the public. Please, we are not kids again. I'm from Bota region. For some time past, we were following NDC. We saw what was happening. When they counted voters as NDC people, they are making wrong. This time, most of us have changed. It is not like the olden days. So I just want to sometimes advise our chiefs too. Like what they are doing, I am seeing it as a disgrace to the whole voter region. We Votarians, we are not tagged to NDC. Said that whatever they will do, whether good or bad, still follow them. It is discrediting our, sometimes our integrity. They shouldn't go that way. And even if the chiefs are going to vote for NDC, we, the youth, have decided not to follow them again. It is serious. Because we are afraid. Ghanaians need a change.
And Peter, please make it snappy so other people can contribute.
Thank you, sir. So this is my advice, and I want to also advise my fellow youth that today it is the youth who are to develop the nation. So they should let us take a bold decision to vote for a white person who is coming to help us and help our children too.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ampong.
Yeah. Hello, sir.
Good evening and welcome to Minority Caucus.
Good evening and good evening to your panelists.
Yeah, good evening, my brother.
And please be snappy so other people can also contribute.
Yeah, thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job. And I just want to say that what we have in the nation, in fact, we can't just understand whether we have two presidents or many presidents or whatever. We don't know who is taking decisions for the nation. Because this one will come out and say different things, another person will come out and say different things. So I think Nana Addo will give us the kind of leadership we want. So let us all rise up, work very hard. Don't let us relax and think that the leadership will just come to us on a silver platter. So that is what I want to comment on.
Thank you very much, Ampong. We have Masawood on the line, if I'm right.
Hello?
Hello. Good evening and welcome to Minority Caucus. Your name?
Good evening. This is Masawood from Tajima.
Yeah, Masawood, your name.
I will stand on this opportunity to greet our flag bearer, Nana Akufo-Addo, and all ministers and all MPs, MPP MPs. And I'm pleading Ghanaians that they should vote wisely for MPP and MPP MPs coming 2012, and Ghana will change. Mr. Man, NDC people, they think that propaganda can win 2012 election for them. If they know that, if NDC know that they have no word for Ghanaians, even though they promise Ghanaians their manifestos, they fail. If they know they don't have any message for Ghanaians, they should keep quiet. And we deliver we NPP will deliver our good message for Ghanaians, and Ghanaians will vote for us. They should stop, NDC should stop saying that MPP is for accounts, MPP is for accounts, while Boromeo go and join MPP. That is nonsense. If you say MPP is for accounts, what about those Asantis who are in Ashanti region voting for NDC? Are you calling them fools?
Masaoud, I think your language is a bit harsh. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello, your name and where you're calling from?
Okay, I am Sadiq from Gushegu.
Sadiq, your name?
Yeah.
I want to first of all thank Mustafa Hamid for his wonderful submission this evening. Yeah. But first of all, I want to appeal to the good people of Ghana to take a good decision come 7th December, because I want to believe that Ghanaians are fed up with this propaganda and lies and this gargantuan corruption we are experiencing now. So I want to appeal to all meaningful Ghanaians, all Ghanaians who are wishing well for the future of our children and we the youth, to, on December 7th, give their mandate to people who are not low-minded, such as the NPP, Bawumia, and then Nana Akufo-Addo.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Hello?
Hello, Isaac.
Yeah, this is Isaac from Tekwadi.
Yeah, Isaac, you're our last caller.
Yeah, thank you very much, Terry. I so much have a lot of respect, and I admire Hamid so much because of his penchant for the truth. But today, listening to his speech, of course, it's good for everybody, every leader to be good, and he rightly enumerated some of the qualities of a good leader. But I had a problem with his decision to do what I call choose and pick. You see, when you are saying leaders should be forthright in whatever they do, they should hire and fire. How about a flag bearer who does not have what it takes to condemn some of his followers for some of their utterances? You see, when you fail to condemn them, or even when you take the lead, and then you make some of the utterances, the infamous one, the all that be that, we all know it. You have not come on board to us to apologize or to even resent it. Does that not amount to some of the lapses in leadership that we are talking about? You see, leadership, as we all know, must be absolute. And so if you are condemning it, you must make sure you broaden it, and it must even include some of the people, including the one you speak for. Up to date, we've not had
Well, thank you.
rescinding what he has spoken against.
Thank you. Your point has been well made. Have a good evening. Back to the studio. Viewers, you're on Minority Caucus. And Hamid,
Yeah.
in wrapping
but first
up,
of all, to quickly rebut what he said, but you are the party's deputy director of communications. You issued that statement in which the party says that we do not support intemperate language, and that we do not support ethnocentric language, and that we are all inclusive.
I guess he's also picking. He's picking and choosing.
He's picking and choosing too.
And he's accusing
and
somebody
then,
else of picking and
Nanado
choosing.
went to the voter region. He told the chiefs right there in their faces that I am not somebody who has an ethnic agenda, and therefore I detest ethnic politics. He said that right there. So it's not true that Nanado has not.
And I don't know what kind of English language the NDC wants Nana to speak in rebutting and dealing with this matter.
It's like the NDC panelist who was on Peace FM with Kokubaku. When Kokubaku says that there's a leadership failure in the country, he says, oh, it's not correct. We won't accept leadership failure. It's not true. Then he says, okay, there's a paralysis. And he said, okay, I'll accept paralysis.
But isn't paralysis worse than failure?
Worse than failure. You know, that is how they operate. Because we haven't said that, we condemn ethnocentric language. If you say we do not support ethnocentric language, for them it's not, because you haven't used the word condemn.
Anyway,
so,
let's wrap up on the leadership issue.
Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that this election, to wrap up, is a referendum on Professor Mills and the NDC. That's what it is. And let nobody make any mistake about it. We are going to vote yes or no. Are we satisfied with the level of governance in our country, with the level of leadership in our country, with the state of our economy? If we are satisfied, we will vote for the NDC. That means endorsing it. If we are not satisfied, we will vote for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. That is what it is. And I'm telling the Ghanaian people that, as the accounts will say, that when you carry alcohol and you carry water, then you know which is heavier. At least now we've done it. Now, their only claim to be voted for is that President Rawlings served for 8 years and President Kufuor served for 8 years.
President Rawlings served 11 years before that.
Well, they mean in the democratic era. And I'm saying, why did they contest 2004? if everybody serves 8 years, why did they contest 2004? So the mandate is for 4 years. And we would only renew our mandate if we see that there's a clear sign that the future will be better.
We're about to go.
My last words to the Ghanaian people is that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is a leader who takes responsibility. He has courage, he's committed, and has passion for the Ghanaian project. He has demonstrated it over more than half of his life has been spent forwarding this Ghanaian project. And I think that it will be an icing on the cake if we allow him. You know, somebody says that to test a man's character, you ought to give him power. We have tested President Milson's character by giving him the power. He's failed completely. I think that it is important that we give it to Nana Addo and give him that test also to see whether he also passes that test.